We welcome you to our channel Explore Entirely. This week, our STS orientation is taking us to page 94 and 95 of the STS handout book, which is activity 10.5. What is our topic for this week's discussion? That is undertaking child study, focusing on children's learning and progress. So as you already know, you have to write our date of visit and our date of visit. So moving straight to activity 10.5.1, our STS or SRJ task is observation of how socio-cultural or socio-economic, cultural and linguistic background influence the way learners learn. That is either a boy or a girl. So what are we going to have, or what are we going to observe in this week's observation? We are going to take two students, that is a boy and a girl. Note that a boy and a girl. We have to provide some information about them. So what are some of the things we can write about them? So in the XRJ form, we have the name of the learner, the occupation of parents, language spoken, and where parents live. This is for you to fill in this portion. But in your writing of your report, you would have to provide more information about the kids. So you can provide the age of the student, you can provide the language spoken by the students, as well as the parents, the occupation, where they live, the learning style of the child. They are all important and they would have to come in your report. So we also go to the indicate any learning needs identified. So what are some of the learning needs that you can identify, or you identified on these two kids? Remember, your attention would have to be on only these two kids. So some of the learning needs of the students can be that there's no textbook for these students. There are less exercise books also for them. So there are some of the exercises they do not participate. They do not also pay attention in class, making them less inclined to what the teacher is saying. And then they do not also participate fully in the classroom. So these are some of the learning needs that you can write about these your two students you have identified in the classroom. Then how do these learning needs affect the way they learn? So these needs you have identified, how do they affect the students, the two students that we are working on? So some of the things you can write about is that lack of textbooks do not allow the student to participate in home assignments that are given to them from the books. You know, sometimes the teachers will say open to page 45 and go and do the assignments there. Because the students do not have, they do not also participate. Then the students do not understand the things that are taught in the classroom because he or she did not participate in the entire class. So this one too is an effect, or some of the things that affect the learning of the students. So the fact that they do not have exercise books affects them. The fact that they do not have textbooks affects them. They do not participate in class also affects them. And then because they also pay attention. They are all some of the, so the things you identified in the points above should also give you a clue to how these things affect them. Moving on straight away to activity 10.5.2, our SRJ task is observation of how the mentor delivers lessons to support the diverse needs of learners. So we know that students are different when it comes to everything. Some learning needs of students are very different. So in our XRJ task, we are going to look at some of the ways that these mentors do to support the needs of these learners, taking into consideration your two students identified above. So the 10 is, we move on. It says, record two strategies your mentor adopted to support diverse learners in class. So in the whole class, what are some of the strategies that your mentor did to support the learning needs in the classroom? So 3 of these strategies. Well, you can write that the mentor used the sharing That is, he lets those who do not have the textbooks to sit with those who have. It's a strategy that the mentors can also use. Then you can also write about that his mentor gives less student attention. That is, those who do not pay attention in class, he gives them more time for them to cooperate in the classroom. So when you identify someone who do not pay much attention in class, the mentors can have much time for them. And then also, another strategy that mentors can also use is they let weak students to sit or pair with good students. There are a lot of strategies that mentors do or mentors use to support learnings in the classroom. What about you? What will you do differently to help diverse learners if you had the opportunity to teach them? So in the next point, write yours down. What you would do differently to help these students with diverse needs in the classroom if you were the one supposed to teach them. Activity 10.5.3 SLG Task: Observation of the performance and progress of learners. State 2 things you observed your mentor do that help the learners most, or the 2 learners. So in everything, you are looking at your 2 learners. So what did the mentor do to help these 2 learners in your classroom? So some of the things that you can write about is the introduction of games in the lesson. So you can write that your mentor introduce games. Children are fan of games. When you introduce games in lessons, they become very happy. You can also write that the mentor used or involved the learners very much in class participation. What do you think? When the student be happy and participate more when they are involved in role play, in drama, in the classroom? Exactly, the student will be very much happy. Taking into consideration your 2 learners. Then our next point: if you were the mentor, what else would you have done to help the 2 identified learners participate fully in the learning activities? So here also, you yourself, what will you do if you were in the shoe of the mentor to help learners participate more fully in the classroom? So I'll leave that with you, then you write it down. Then what will you do differently if given the chance to play the role of your mentor? So note, these 2 points are very different. The first one, he said, if you were the mentor, what else would you have done to help the 2 identified learners participate fully in the classroom? Remember that previously we have talked about what the teacher or the mentor did to help learners participate in the learning activity. What would you have also done? And then what will you do differently if given the chance to play the role of the mentor? So today, this is where we will end our discussion on our SLG tags. So we have looked at a whole lot of things. That is child study. Well, to give you a brief gist of it, in level 200, you'll be doing a whole semester's course on child study when it comes to STS. So you would have to take this very week's observation very seriously when it comes to child study. Well, this is where time will allow us to drop our discussion. But to give you a gist of it, when you go to page 82 of our STS handbook, you can find a nice checklist for this week's STS observation. There are a lot of things in page 32 that can help you even when you are failing in this week's STS observation. What about next week? We are going to discuss teaching philosophy and building portfolio. This is also a nice topic that you would have to consider. So before you leave the link, please click on the notification, click on subscribe button, like our videos, and share. This is Explore Entirely. Have a good day.